Today we are tasting a beer that represents a country, Molson Canadian. What's up everybody, Nate here from Tree House Brewing Company, where from time to time we take a look at different beers from across the world, dig into their history, give them a try, and let you know what we think. And today we have a beer often requested on the channel that represents an entire country. That is Molson Canadian. So the story of Molson Canadian starts a very long time ago, in fact, much longer ago than many of the beers we've featured on the channel. The year is 1786. George Washington is not yet the US president. In fact, the US Constitution hasn't even been ratified yet. And north of the border, a 33-year-old English immigrant by the name of John Molson steps off a ship in Montreal and decides the colony desperately needs one thing: a great beer. So the funny thing is, Molson actually did not come from a brewing dynasty. He was an entrepreneur who was obsessed with quality and efficiency. And after seeing the rough, inconsistent ales being made in Montreal at the time he stepped off that boat, he bought a small brewery on the St. Lawrence River and began upgrading everything. Equipment, sanitation, fermentation techniques, you name it, he was all over it. And by 1786, he was selling his first batches of Molson Ale. From the get-go, people absolutely loved it. Word spread quickly, and John Molson became one of Canada's great early industrialists. In fact, he built Canada's first steamship. He even opened a hotel, started a bank, and most importantly, scaled Molson beer into the largest brewery in the region. So it was very early on that John Molson brought in his sons, Thomas, William, and John Jr., to take over the brewery, and they kept pushing. They made massive expansions in Montreal and introduced Canada's first large-scale malting operation. Molson was already a household name in the Great North. As refrigeration, rail networks, and mechanized brewing took off, Molson became a national presence. And in 1903, Molson introduced Molson Export, their flagship ale. And in 1959, they launched Molson Canadian, the lager we have in front of us today, and that's the beer that would become their iconic and lasting identity. In the 60s, Molson went full throttle. They built huge mechanized breweries across Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and pretty much every major market they could get their hands on. This gave them a true national reach, and they began acquiring smaller regional breweries to solidify their dominant position. They weren't done yet. Then they went on to make the power move of all power moves, and they bought the Montreal Forum, home of the Canadiens. And overnight, Molson was the beer of hockey. By the 1970s, Molson Canadian and Molson Export were everywhere. This era locked Molson in as a national icon. So through the 1970s, Molson had increasing competition. They battled Labatt, who you guys have seen on the channel, Carling, O'Keefe, in this legendary Canadian beer war, pouring millions of dollars into ads and distribution. And through it all, Molson stayed one of the top two breweries in the country the entire time. By the late 20th century, Molson was exporting across North America and competing with the biggest global giants. Canada's oldest brewery was not done evolving yet, and in 2005, merged with Coors to form the famous Molson Coors Brewing Company, which of course is one of the world's largest beer producers to this day. Even after this big blockbuster merger, Molson continues to emphasize its uniquely Canadian identity, particularly with the Molson Canadian and Molson Export. It's 238 years old, family-run for most of its existence, and firmly ingrained in Canadian culture. Wow. And that's the short version. What a history of an amazing beer. I'm very much looking forward to trying this and giving you guys what I think, and that's what we're going to do right now. All right, so as I often do, I first comment on the packaging format, try to give you guys some context about where we got this beer, in what type of condition we're tasting it. I do not see a bottle date on here at all. Michael, how did we pick this up?
We picked it up from Ted's, cold.
All right, Ted's down the road, local liquor store here in Charlton. Cold, which we always like to hear. Of course, in terms of the bottle, you got John Molson's signature up here on the top, which is very cool. Nice red and silver and white motif. Really cool design. I like a label that features a lot of white and doesn't feel store brandy. Nice character here with the cursive font, Canadian lager, and alternating red and white, which is really cool. I'm not really sure what that is. Does anybody know? Am I missing what that is? just an insignia of some kind. Founded in 1786, 11.5 fluid ounces, 140 calories. We do have the nutrition facts on here. The beer comes in at 5% alcohol by volume, which is slightly more robust than your typical American light lager. I'm very excited for this beer, guys. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, we know 70% of people who watch are not subscribed. If you are subscribed, you won't miss Labatt, which we've already featured on the channel, and you won't miss future videos. So do hit that button. We've got a lot where this came from. We got a lot in the archive. And if you remember from the Labatt video, by the way, Labatt or Molson, what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. I loved Labatt's. Loved it, loved it, loved it. It's crisp. It has like a good hop pop to it. I really like that. Brewed at Genesee in New York. This beer has very, very stiff competition against that beer. Nice, like slightly darker golden color than we're used to seeing on the channel. Clear filtered appearance, a little bit of sediment kind of like floating around in there, which frankly I kind of like to see. Really nice looking beer, good foam, good head retention. I don't know too much about the beer from the label other than that's a lager. Don't know how it's made, don't know what it's made with. See how it tastes. Great aroma. Great aroma. Rich. Slightly hoppy, really clean lagery fermentation character. Biscuity honey malts. Really nice. Really nice on the nose. Palate is primed. Solid. Solid taste. Golden honeyed malts. Like good little earthy bitterness and hop character in there. Kind of dry, which I really like. There's not a lot of sweetness on the finish. Man, these Canadian lagers, rock solid. So this is just personal preference and I guess advice for viewers. You guys might agree or disagree. I look for beers that have a little bit of hop character that have no sweetness on the finish. So for me, that's a defining characteristic of macro lager that I enjoy. If it has that lingering sweetness, I don't want to drink it. If it has that crispness and dryness and a little bit of hop character that Molson Canadian and Labatt have, sign me up. Sometimes the quality of the beer is not necessarily how good it is, but when it lacks anything that's bad. This is a really, really well-made, clean, articulate beer that has no off character. Simple honeyed malts, earthy hops, noble hop variety, simple, dry, clean, easy to drink, and I really like it. So if I'm thinking back to tasting Labatt's, I don't know if I remember enough, but I do know that I like Labatt because it had hop character. I do know that it was reasonably dry in the finish, and I know that it didn't have a lot of sweetness, which for me is what I look for. And it just has like a je ne sais quoi, that phrase, a certain something that you can't quite put into words that you like. And this beer has that, like the Labatt. So I can't recall which one I would enjoy head to head, so I think we're gonna have to do that in a future video for sure. The battle of the Canadian heavyweights. But drinking this beer in a vacuum and not comparing it to anything else, I will not be upset to get one, and I certainly will not turn one down, and from time to time I might even seek it out. So that's it. Molson Canadian, super rock solid beer representing a country, deep and wonderful history. This was awesome. I want to thank you guys for watching. Leave your thoughts down below, hit that like button, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.